Okay.
Hello, and welcome to the Champ We Are United podcast, the number one football comic podcast. Hello, I'm your host for this show, this very special show. My name is Matt Mute Button Richards, and I'm joined by my two co-hosts. I'll introduce you to those first before we go to the special guests. So, first of all, I introduce you to Neil Bygone Berrigan. How are you, Neil?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Welcome to another show. I'm looking forward to today's.
Yes, that's right. I should say it's episode 91. So
Woohoo!
91. Woohoo! Good to have you here, Neil. And I'm also
Yep.
joined by, you heard his woohoo in the background there. It's Paul Tangent Richardson. Hi, Paul.
Hi, Matt. Yeah, wow, crikey. Episode 91 and yet more special guests. Really excited about this one. I think we're going to learn a lot in episode 91. Fantastic.
Yeah. Definitely looking forward to this. Goal can't make it today, so yeah, so it's just the three of us as your hosts. But Goal will be back for the next episode. So it's now time to introduce our very special guests. So first of all, I introduce you to Stratos. Hi,
Hello.
Stratos.
Hi, guys. Really nice to see you. And it's an honor to be here.
Oh, thank you
The
very
honor's
much.
ours, trust us.
Yeah. And also our other friend, Nikos. Hi, Nikos.
Hello to all of you. I'm very pleased to be with you. Thanks for the invitation. Yeah.
Well, we're very pleased you come along. Stratos and Nikos, as you can tell, are Greek friends. They're from the Greek Roy of The Rovers fan club, and we've been connected for a while now on social media. Um, and me and Nikos in particular have been talking about coming on the show and sharing some of their stories, and finally we're making it happen today. So this is fantastic. So we're really looking forward to this um, today. So it's, as I say, it's a special show. We will go. I'll go through a brief running order. First of all, I am going to do the social media feedback from the last show, which is episode 90. So I'll just do that shortly. And then we'll just kind of get into when I say it's interview, but it's just a chat. It's just a chat with the guys here and finding out about their stories, the fan club, and where the Rovers in Greece. So yeah, so that's it really. So okay, first of all, let's start with the social media feedback. So the last episode was episode 90, and that was a superb episode, guys, wasn't it? What did you think of that
Yeah.
one?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Mal was brilliant and some hilarious stories there. So yeah, really enjoyed that one.
Brilliant
I've
stuff.
forgotten it, the Mattel Electro Olympic champion.
The Mattel 1983 Mattel Electro
Ah,
Olympic champion.
you
Yeah,
know what? I
reigning
was amazed.
undefeated still champion.
I
Raining.
just was amazed how much it's impacted on the rest of his life.
Yeah.
Without realizing or at some points, but the people that he met, the adventures he went on, and the fact that 40 years later it's still a main talking point. It's brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah, it was really
Yeah.
And the fact that he
inspiring
didn't get a computer.
Yeah.
and a bit disappointing, as well as it being inspiring, a bit disappointing as well. But never
Yeah.
mind. Um, okay, so let's dive into some of the feedback. First of all, we'll do Trevor Melvin. There's no theme tune this
Yeah,
week to
sorry, Trevor.
disappoint listeners and Trevor. So Trevor Melvin, Magic Malcolm is still champion, is the headline. Um, and Trevor continues, Malcolm's remarkable odyssey, which at one point saw the former local MP and Prime Minister Tony Blair turn up at his front door for a photo opportunity, is truly inspirational. Malcolm is a real life comic book hero, and this muser is extremely grateful for him sharing his Stockton-on-Tees to Florida accounting for. The 90 minutes plus added time was seen out with a brand new feature entitled Collector's Corner. It was a well worked section of the show which saw all four team members look to enter the transfer market and complete their personal comic book collections. At one point, Bygone Berrigan cunningly attempted to insert a home makeover clause into negotiations. Comic collecting Todd Bowley's Beware. Where the lads? Yeah. Have you been approached by anybody to decorate your house yet, Neil?
No,
Or
no one's come forward.
okay,
No.
so if anyone's out there, um,
Yeah.
you're interested.
I hope they do because it shows the positive of collecting these comics. And if the wife can have the house decorated by a fellow fan for free, that'd be fantastic.
Maybe we just have this as a standing agenda item
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
episode. Okay. Mal commented. So Mal's joined the Roy the Rovers comic 40 years on Facebook site. He said the cast list, so just for people there, the Catholic priest was Father John Caden, the head of PE was John Burton, the English teacher was Dave Tucker, the local MP, Tony Blair, and the hairstylist was his mother. If we've seen the photos there,
Do you know what?
Typical mum's haircut.
This has got the makings of a TV drama special, isn't it?
Yeah.
It really has.
Yeah.
Guest appearances by Tony Blair.
Oh, unbelievable. And Scott Griffin commented, clearly you must know Mel, because he said, I knew I should have got an autograph when I had the chance. So so Scott, you need to kind of bump into Mal again and get his autograph. On the Chat We Are United site, Adrian Lord, again, no theme tune. He said, hi team, I've just listened to this today. Great podcast as usual. I now have another theme tune. Well, I am honoured. Yeah, because that was the Tony Basil Mickey, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Wow, how can you imagine winning that prize 30 years ago? And he mentions there he sorted out some Football Picture Story monthlies and sold them on his page, and he sold them. But I think he did it at a slightly lower price because of the community we are, and that's really nice to see. We do see that across the Facebook pages, don't we? That people are really friendly and don't take the mick when we're selling stuff. So that's great. And he said, well done on getting to episode 90. That's mad. And it is mad, Adrian. And Adrian, I think you've listened to every single episode. So well done to you. I think you deserve some sort of prize.
A trip to Florida.
It won't be a trip to Florida.
Yeah.
Let's just make that clear, yeah.
or in television. And our US friend of the show, George Prince. Great episode. I always laugh at the amazement of another episode, episode 90. Wow. So cool to hear about the 1983 Mattel video game champ. Still love those Doc Cotton impressions. Keep up the good work. No Doc Cotton impressions today, I'm afraid.
Exactly. Yeah, Dot's on holiday.
On holiday, yeah, with Goal. Although, yeah, she did go back to him and say, "Oh, I say, Dorothy Cotton, thank you, Mr. Prince." Apparently, but in a Doc Cotton.
In a Doc Cotton voice.
Yeah, not like mine. So that's the feedback from show episode 90. So excellent stuff. Thank you very much for all the feedback, as ever. We really do appreciate it. And we're looking forward to the feedback from today's show as well, when it's published. So let's get into it then. So let's say Stratos, Nikos, it's great to have you here. We've got some questions we're just going to ask you guys, and just I guess the first thing
before beauty, so Nikos begins.
There we go. This is the level we're going to get to. Nikos, okay. So, I mean, obviously here in the UK, and 90% of our listeners are based in the UK, but we do have, as we know, like loads around the globe, in Australia, New Zealand, the US, etc. We know the key dates. We know that Tiger started in 1954, Roy of the Rovers in 76, and all those kind of things. But what I'm really interested in is how did Roy of the Rovers come into Greece? How did you first kind of see it out there?
Yes, it was about 1970. That particular day, two different magazines published the first Roy of the Rovers story in Greece, the same day.
Oh, wow.
The titles were different.
I didn't know that.
There you go. You're learning today, Stratos.
In one mag, it was titled as The Aces of the Ground, Football Ground, and the other, Roy Race. The two magazines were, the first was Drake from the hero of Navy, Captain Drake.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And the second, different publishers, different publishing, different editors. And the second was Zagor, from the hero of Bonelli, Italian hero, Zagor.
Right.
And he titled there as Roy Race. The first lasted only for 4 weeks, and it was closed track. So Roy was closed there after 10 episodes.
Right.
in the format of the magazine. Okay,
Right.
different format from Tiger. Both samples were from Tiger. In Drake, there was a history of season 1966, drawn by Joe Colquhoun.
Yeah.
And in Zagor, titled Roy Race, was from 67 period, drawn by Von Hutton.
Yeah.
The second one, Zagor, lasted for 2 years,
Okay.
and then Zagor was closed for a little, for some months. There were another magazine of Stelios Anemodouras, was the editor of Zagor, titled Jaguar, when there was no Roy Race inside. This was the first period, years 1970 to 1972, from December 1970 to 72. The
Right.
first period was in another Greek magazine called Agori, means boy, dynamic boy, and boy afterwards.
Right.
Firstly, from the issue number, it was the story about the childhood of Roy Race.
Okay.
Tiger, 1970-71. And then in 1975, Roy begins in Agori, firstly with period, original period in Tiger, 71-72, sketched by Von Hutton, and it goes over to 1983.
Oh, wow. Okay.
8 years. About 8 years. And afterwards, there was a gap of 2 years, and from 1985, Roy comes back. This was the Greek title, or Roy Xanagirizi. Roy comes back, meaning coming back from Zagor or coming back from the childhood. Okay.
Roy comes back.
The third period in Agori again were from 85 to 92, when Agori was closed, 1 year before Tiger. And the third period had stories from Roy of the Rovers comic, sketched by David Skew, my dear friend, and Mike White.
There
So
were
86,
they were
87.
stories 2 years before they got printed in Greece. I mean, in 85 we read stories from 83.
Right. Okay, that's fascinating, isn't it? That's what's really interesting to us, is like, when did you get these stories, and when were you
Nikos forgot to mention that there was a last period of Roy of the Rovers in Black magazine a few years ago.
Oh yes.
And he was totally involved in that. It was because of him.
By Leokratis Anemodouras editions, and Stratos had the duty to make all the translation.
Right. Wow.
And there was several editions, like the playing years afterwards. Edition Nota Etisia.
And the annuals, yes. And there were 6, I think, Roy of the Rover comics that were edited in early 2020s. Or Nico, I don't remember when they were printed. 2019, 2018, the magazines that were part of, they were sold with a Greek newspaper every week.
Right. Okay, right.
They were
the first time in Greece when Roy had his own title.
Yes, that was his own title, just Roy of the Rovers stories.
Philostratis Anemodouras, the grandson of Stratos Anemodouras, of Stelios Anemodouras, who had published in Zagor the stories.
Because that's what I was going to ask. Is that clearly you got the Roy of the Rovers story was in all these comics over the years from 70 up to like 92, but it was actually a story within other comics. It wasn't a Roy of the Rovers comic as such.
No, it was a story among all the others.
Yeah. Oh, it's fascinating, isn't it, guys? It's just so different. I mean, it would be different. Obviously, expected it to be different, but it's so incredibly different. But then to you guys, to Nikos and Stratos, that's just absolutely normal. You know, you wouldn't know any different, would you?
Was it not frustrating, the fact that, you know, like the stories seemed to come for a bit and then it'd go away? And because
we didn't know. There was no internet back then.
Yeah.
So
when I first read Roy of the Rovers stories, I started reading in the early 80s, occasionally, on and off, but I started really reading it after 1985. Right. And then I was so sure that there was a Melchester team in England. I was a real hero, a real player. Because I was reading the sports pages every week to see the standings in the English league and see where is Manchester. I don't know where's Manchester. Why don't they have it?
That's brilliant.
Searching the map to find
searching the map. Yeah. You go on holiday to Manchester.
When I'm old enough, I'm going to go visit Mel Park.
Yeah. Oh, that's superb.
So you were aware straight away it was a story that was based in England, and was you aware that there was a Roy of the Rovers actual comic in England? Would you like?
We didn't know.
Nothing.
I have to say, my first. Talking about me now, I had an aunt who lived in England. Everybody has an aunt who lives in England, in Greece, and or Cyprus.
We did as well.
Yeah, funnily enough, so have we.
And I told her, I'm a fan. I love this. She came in the summer 1995, and I was reading the stories, manically, and she said, "Oh, I think I've seen it in the newsagents. I think there's a Roy of the Rovers comic," which was, oh my God, there is a Roy of the Rovers comic in England. And when she came back, she started sending just copies, collected 3 of them, put them in an envelope and sent them to me. And that was my first encounter with Roy of the Rovers comic. I was in England for the first time in 1986, summer of 1986, and I grabbed the holiday special.
Yes.
With Roy with the England shirt.
World Cup.
Yes. He's going to get it. So Stratos, whenever you mention anything, he has to go to his comic collection and try and find it.
Yeah, try and find it. Yeah.
Cool. But carry on.
No, please go on, carry on. Yeah, exactly. I will be back.
And when I didn't know there were holiday specials. We didn't know anything at the time, really. We just thought Roy of the Rovers was a part of a larger comic, as in Greece. So when I saw that there was a only football comic, it was like a dream.
I was going to say, when you saw that, and then you saw that the actual fact that there were 7 other football stories. I mean, that.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
The second story was
very younger than me, and I can't remember. Maybe there was this magazine in Greece in 1971 called Philathlos, the Fan Philathlos. It was full of football stories, from the UK.
Right. What stories were they, Nikos?
Yes, there were Mighty Mouse,
Nipper.
There was
Nipper.
A story called Bobby of the Blues.
Bobby of the Blues. Yeah.
Yes.
And they were
Yes.
translated it as Johnny the Greek or something like that.
Yes,
Greek or
Johnny
something
the
like
Greek.
that. Because
Really?
we have to be involved, you know.
Of course. Well, why not? Why not?
About the other great stories drawn by Barry Mitchell,
Yeah.
Jack of United and Jim of City.
Jimmy City,
Yeah.
Jack of City, Jim of United.
Yeah,
You know,
Jack and Jimmy.
all these stories.
The Chesley brothers.
Oh, superb,
Yeah.
superb stories.
Etc. Etc.
Barry Mitchell is my all-time favorite artist, I have to say.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
like Yvonne Hutton as well.
Yeah.
Yvonne Hutton,
Yeah.
she's a great artist.
And
So many.
we got
We have to be
interview.
careful because we got David Skew locked in the cupboard, and we don't
Yeah,
want to
David.
offend.
Sorry,
He's
David.
given-
Sorry,
Sorry,
David.
David. I love
You're-
you.
Sorry,
I
David.
really love you,
You're still my
David.
favourite, David. You're still my favourite.
But I have to say that Barry Mitchell is my all-time favorite.
Yeah, and you say, didn't you get a? I know
Although I grew up
jumping.
with David's artwork.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know we're jumping ahead, and maybe we can cover it a bit later. But didn't you interview Barry Mitchell? Didn't you?
Yes, we did.
And Ian
And
Rimmer.
Ian Rimmer.
Yeah.
Yes.
In 2009,
Oh,
we
wow,
have
brilliant.
a blog. It's called Roy of the Rovers gr.blogspot.com. And it started because there was nothing going on the actual website. So I started collecting things which I saw randomly on the internet and reposting them on a blog.
Yeah.
And
Great work. Stratos has done a great work in this.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about blogs. I had no idea. I said, okay, let's start something. And then it evolved a little bit. And I was lucky enough to be able to interview Ian Rimmer and Barry Mitchell.
Wow. That's
because
amazing.
there were plans for a new Roy of the Rovers story or something like that back then. It didn't happen, but it was still very, very interesting. And there was a little, how can I say, 3 or 4 pages of drawn by Barry Mitchell to indicate to sell the new Roy of the Rovers as they were going to do it. But it didn't happen.
Yeah, because I remember that because I always used to do these Google searches and things, and Ian Rimmer did, and that's funny. I was just kind of looking now, I'm not sure if it's still there. I can't find it, but as you say, he had his own site, and it was just literally a couple of pages, but he had artwork from Barry Mitchell, and it was kind of asking, is there anybody out there that kind of wants to back this project?
Yes.
And of course, it would have been after the match of the day years, and of course Ian Rimmer and Barry Mitchell did the match of the day years together.
We will
also fantastic artwork and fantastic storyline. So comprehensive in such short space, so many things happening in such short space.
Because they only had one. It's only monthly at a time, wasn't it? So it's really hard.
If you think, sorry, just I know we're gonna. If you think about that's 2 pages a month. To try and cover and do that kind of in-depth football story with just such little space. Really, I've got to say, because it was a really great story. It was testament to their efforts. It really was.
We will attach a link to that interview because I've read that interview as well. It's a brilliant interview, and I'll attach a link to it to the show. So if any of our listeners haven't read it, then they can. And obviously, we'll have a link to the fan club as well, so people can kind of go to that because it's got some great information on there. And you're right. Yeah, you're right, Nikos. Stratos have done a great job with that site. It's brilliant. Yeah. So
it's been frozen for years, but now Nikos is continuing it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
I just funny. I've gone on this.
I see
it.
You know, we are representatives of 2 different eras. Stratos from middle 80s to the end, and me from 70s to middle 80s.
So I was actually going to say then, Nikos. So Stratos has told us how he started when he started to kind of read the comics and Roy of the Rovers. What about yourself? What's your story? When did you start reading then? Was it 1970 or surely you're not that old?
I started in 71, 72 in Zagor. I saw the first images of Yvonne Hutton that was so young to die.
Oh, it's so sad. Yeah. Yeah.
And this technique was similar to a Greek painter called Byron, Viron Aptosoglou. He was drawing the classical Mikros Eros, the little hero, about three kids fighting against Germans during the Second World War. You know, this sketch of Yvonne's was similar, and I liked the football too, and began to draw all the episodes. And I had problem because of the format was different, it was small. I didn't know back then that Yvonne and all the artists drones in another, okay, and I was fighting to make all this. How can she?
The great artist, by the way.
Oh yeah, we're going to cover that.
We know.
Me a lot, and David, after she left the project at about middle 70s, and then David made it from
75.
I knew him from Martin's Marvelous Mini.
Yes. Yeah.
I could see that the line is similar. So I started to make Roy Ray stories of me looking at the original art. And after a lot of years, I made one comic hero, a goalkeeper. You can see that it's...
So Nikos is just holding, for the listeners, he's just holding up one of these artist impressions. Because Nikos, you have your own site. You've done loads of illustrations and art.
By a friend, Nikos Joyce, you know.
Superb. Yeah, it's amazing.
By a friend, Nikos Joyce, editor. And my friend, Vangelis Konstantinidis, had the idea. We together made this. And this is my Roy. My mind. From my mind.
It's very similar to Yvonne.
At an original.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's brilliant.
This is for me. Okay.
Oh, nice.
Do you know, sorry, Nikos, I was just going to say, because I'm not as talented as you. And what I've found, I mean, I haven't for years, but I was really interested in the drawing. But I loved what you said, that I had exactly the same thing when I have a memory in sixth form, and I actually drew a picture of not Roy of the Rovers, but the Goals of Jimmy Grant character. And I remember in the sixth form, when nobody was there in the staff room, we had a photocopy, and I was trying to figure out how can you zoom it in and make the artwork smaller? Because like you, when I first started to draw, I was trying to draw it the size in the comics. And I was just like, how do you get that deep? I could copy big, but I could never draw in that space. So it's fantastic to hear. I really wish I was that
the comic books that we were reading were even smaller.
Right.
Really?
An A5 almost.
Yeah, because the size that Nikos was holding up was really small. Yeah. Is that what the size you?
That was the size we were reading.
Right.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh wow! So for even you, Nico, I was struggling just to get it to A4, and you're trying to do it even half that size. Oh,
great,
brilliant!
Thanks.
But your art is superb, and you're very prolific as well, because you still do lots of art now, don't you? It seems like you're continually working on new pieces.
It is something that makes me happy.
Yeah. Hey, look, there's nothing wrong with that. As long as you're not breaking the law. But yeah, that's good. That's good. It's not against the law to draw Roy Race yet, so I think you're safe. You're on safe ground. That's brilliant.
Fantastic.
So, guy, I was just going to ask, what about if I come to you, Stratos? What about obviously? What sort of your favourite storylines? Can you remember some of your favourite storylines in over the years? I mean, you probably would have read them a bit later than us, perhaps. But what are some of your favourite storylines?
We never read the Who Shot Roy Race.
I was just thinking that. Yeah.
We never read that.
Yeah,
it started the 1985 era here in Greece started with the last episodes before Roy leaving Melchester.
Yeah. So within the cricket. It wouldn't have been a cricket
turmoil
match.
with the management and the problems with the players, and it all led to him leaving Manchester. So we didn't know that all this Who Shot Roy race happened.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Wow.
And when I got the Playing Years, the book, The Playing Years, which I strongly suggest that if you don't have it, buy it. It's a Bible. It's a Roy of the Rovers Bible.
Got that.
If you can find it, I know it's out of print now, but I'm sure there.
Colin Jarman, I think, is the
eBay or
Amazon.
I can find it.
That's it. It's the Bible.
Yes.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's brilliant.
When I read all this stuff and led to that, I was really shocked. And I was 30, more than 35 years old. And I think that was my favorite storyline.
Right. Yes.
And the next shock, of course, was the Basran
tragedy.
Absolutely.
Major shock. And the shock for me was the way they handled the players that died. Okay, they just put the names and bye, see you.
I know, major characters, major characters as well, weren't they, Nikos? They were like Jimmy Slade, Kenny Logan, major characters, and
after that, with the change of the artwork, it was a completely different comic book. I still enjoyed it, but it was not that's it.
Yeah.
Mike White, you mean?
Yeah, Mike White. Do you know what? I feel a bit.
I love Mike White's drawing, but David Skew is David Skew.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting because I if you guys sort of listen, but obviously we're the Champ We Are United podcast, and I mean I read Champ, but a couple of our other presenting team, Ridders and Simo. And of course, it's interesting for us as Roy of the Rovers fans. I think with Mike White, what it was as well, it was a big change in the appearance of Roy. Suddenly became this much more muscular thing and like that. So for us, it was a bit but so these guys that read, and I didn't realize at the time, I got the Champ comic, but I didn't really actually even appreciate that a lot of that artwork was Mike White. And so they're really big fans. But I think amongst Roy of the Rovers fans, Mike White is a bit of a controversial figure. But I think it's just because of the change in Roy at that time. Yes. I mean, again, he is a fantastic artist, but that change for us was almost, I think, too big.
Much.
So it's too much. I mean, when you think the change from Yvonne into David, as we've covered many times, it's because David was brought in because he could copy. He could copy. In
the beginning, and then David gradually was copying Yvonne's artwork.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it evolved into his own.
It's a huge change.
Firstly, he tried to be similar to Yvonne's. He has told us in 2 interviews we have taken him.
Yeah, you've interviewed David as well, haven't you? Yeah.
Yes, and firstly, so the readers couldn't confuse. He tried to be like Yvonne's. Afterwards, he made his own style, and by the middle 80s, it was a great stuff.
It was superb. Yeah.
Great.
He even copied his own hairstyle. He said that.
And he's still got the blonde. Have you seen this? Have you seen him on video? He's still
in Martin's Marvelous Mini.
Yes.
Martin Baker. Yeah.
Many greetings to David, by the way.
He's
a great guy, really great guy. So laid back.
Absolute legend, absolutely. Yeah, hi David, great friend of our show as well. Friend of many people. What a great guy he is. He's superb.
And Paul Trevillon is a great guy. Paul Trevillon. Wow. Twitter, we had we had the contact in Twitter via Twitter. It's a great guy.
I mean, we're so lucky to be connected to some of these people, and thankfully they're still around, so you can interview them. And Barry Tomlinson is superb.
Yeah, we've been very privileged.
Barry Mitchell, it would be very good for us. Barry Mitchell, if you could find to interview.
We'll talk after the show. If you've got a contact, we'll try and find him.
Yeah, we're starting to reach out to more people.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. That you absolutely, we're desperate to get him on. That'd be superb. What about so? What about the fan club then? So Stratos, so you set up the fan club, as I understand it. So how did that come about, and when did that start?
It's not a fan club with members and the president and the vice president and so on. It's nothing like that.
Surely you're the president and vice president.
Il Presidente?
Nikos appointed me. I didn't know. I was appointed.
I share roles to the most fanatic fans, I share the roles.
In a very democratic way, I was appointed the president.
Council.
So
it's unofficial yet.
Okay. Yes, of course. Yeah, of course.
It's just people who like reading football stories. We're fans of Roy. We're fans of not just the artwork or the storylines. We're fans of the culture.
Yeah.
I work as an English teacher, so I have to say that my first contact with English culture and literature in the later stages was Roy of the Rovers.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
interesting,
amazing, is it? So it's brought you a career. It's led into a career for you.
Mine too.
That's it.
Brilliant.
We learned the country, and we learned after years, we learned about the culture and the mentality through the Roy of the Rovers story.
Yes.
Yeah. I think we've spoken in the past about how Roy of the Rovers, gets young children to read. A lot of us read through comics rather than books. And it's interesting to see your take on it, how it helped you learn about English culture, and learn actually how to read English, because you don't realize how much actual storyline is wrote in the speech bubbles and at the top of the page that describe the story as well. Yeah.
And not only that, it's also when David Skew draws a road, with a car and a semi-detached house and the small bricks and the garden. And when I went to England in 1986, I was in Birmingham. So I saw, oh yeah, that must be Manchester. It looks exactly the same. So it's you get to know the culture.
You do. Yeah, you definitely do, and perhaps some of the values as well, because Roy was very principled, wasn't he? His values as well, fair play and doing things right. And some people say it's probably a bit too.
About British football, Scotland's football, there is a guy, a friend of ours, Manos Kasotakis. He is expert about football, English football, but in Scottish mainly, Celtic, etc.
He's another Celtic fan.
Gustavo?
He's a Celtic fan, I think.
Celtic.
Yeah.
Celtic.
I think it was like, I think the same for us. Just, I know it's a bit tongue in cheek, but many people didn't go abroad for holidays. So when you read Roy of the Rovers, they went on tours to different places, and the comic took you out of England as well. It took you to like South American areas where obviously you would never get on a flight because you'll end up kidnapped.
That's it.
But there was like places in Europe and different other places. It brought you out of your bedroom into all these other foreign places you'd never heard of, which I think is
funny story. When Rovers came to Greece for a small tour to Crete, I think. I think it was 1981, summer of 1981.
We're gonna cover it later, but carry on, Stratos. Go on, keep going.
David draw on the
advertising banner.
On the advertising banners, little messages to his Greek friends.
Yeah.
Did he?
Yeah.
In Greek.
Yeah.
He's a great fan of Greece.
Yeah.
He had a Greek friend. Don't remember her name now, but
Helen.
I knew it'd be female.
Helen. That's it. He kept on writing messages to her through the advertising.
Brilliant. He has mentioned to us when we've interviewed him, not that, but on the advertising hoardings, like friends' businesses and things like that he did. Yeah, it's brilliant. It's lovely to hear that.
Yes. And I've written, there, I've written some good years advertisement about one named Nikolaidis, like my last name. I wrote them down there.
Well, why not? Why not use this opportunity to promote? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Don't blame you. So you said it earlier, but I mean, what highlights do you have of the fan club or the blog, etc.? I mean, you've interviewed clearly Barry, Mitchell, and Ian Rimmer, and David Skew. Are there any other highlights you've had from doing that? I know you're kind of saying it's a bit. You've probably eased off a bit of it. Stratos and Nikos has kind of taken the lead a bit. But what other highlights did you have from kind of doing all that?
The interviews were. I just emailed. I found Ian Rimmer's email, and I just emailed him, asked him if you want to talk, to have an interview, a written interview. I just sent the questions, and he sent me back the replies written. And I wish I could talk to both of them live, but it was great. It was a really great experience. Also David, he wrote a message for the Greek fans, which was a real pleasure.
I've seen that as well, and he actually, I mean, that's what he talks about, doesn't he? He talks about Ian Vosper, who was the editor of Roy of The Rovers at the time. Who was didn't he meet his wife in Crete or something, on holiday or something?
Something like that.
Yeah. So that's why that's why he, and as well as you said, he had a really close affinity. He loves Greece and the Greek islands as well. And I think he said he would have moved over there, but it's just too far away from
he was thinking about
his kids when he went to Spain. Yeah, exactly. So it's
he would have come in Greece instead of Spain, but unfortunately in Greece back then there was no strong internet.
Okay, yeah.
He went to Spain.
Yeah.
For all these years.
David, we have very good internet connection now, if you want.
Sorry, this podcast is being brought to you by the Greek Tourist Board, alongside the Greek Roy of the Rovers fan club.
And don't forget to visit Chios Island. Okay, because I live in
Chios. Chios.
I have to do something about that.
I went to Kefalonia this year, so it's the first time I've been to a Greek island. But I need to check. I need to go to some other islands. I know there's a lot of them. I probably won't go to all of them. But
good luck with that.
Brilliant. Okay, guys. Well, look. I mean, Neil, Paul, have you got any other questions? What I'm going to do, I'm going to load up. So for listeners, I'm going to start showing some of the stories we've kind of pulled out. But sorry, go on, Neil. Go on.
No, I think we've answered a lot of the questions. I was always interested in things like, does anything get lost in translation? Were any adaptations made for the Greek readers, that may not have translated across from the Roy of the Rovers comics? Have you purchased like English versions and noticed the difference between what was published in Greece?
The first great difference is the speech bubbles. The speech bubbles were much smaller for the Greek editions. So in the English editions, the guys on the terrace spoke for 4 or 5 lines, and then the other one replied for 4 or 5 lines. But in Greece, you just had 2.
Right.
So we had to do everything much smaller. And I had that experience when I worked at the latest edition here in Greece. I had to translate and I had to improvise a lot.
Yeah.
Well,
because obviously Roy used to enjoy engaging with the fans who were sat right at the back of the stadium, and he'd answer their questions. And obviously that's what I was saying before. You get a lot of description just in a small panel, don't you?
That was such a brilliant idea with the guys at the terrace talking.
Yeah,
it's genius.
I liked it. I did. Just the other question I've just got is about like you mentioned before about the holiday special. And I think, Nikos, you also mentioned about an annual. Did you get them eventually? Did they come across? Did you never get a Greek version of an annual or a special? Or did you have to purchase the English versions?
Only English versions. There were no annuals here in Greece.
The stories never appeared in a one-off specials or anything like that?
The storylines from the holiday specials and the annuals, which were one-off stories, were printed in other magazines in Greece. You know,
Wow, right,
the
yeah.
editor had Agori, which was the main edition, and they had another one called Trueno, which was printed twice a month, every 2 weeks.
Right.
So in Trueno, they had one-off stories. Basically, I guess it's basically from holiday specials.
Or from annuals.
Or
Yeah.
from annuals,
From
yes.
tighter annuals, mainly.
Condensed stories.
It's interesting, isn't it? How we
In
don't realize
Trueno,
probably how lucky we were having such a great comic with this, and you guys love it as much as, if not more than us. But yes, it was hard to locate these issues and episodes. The other question I was just going to ask, it was just about the relaunch. You know, like recently we've had the relaunch of Rocky, and they moved the story into like a different dynamic. How have you found? I've noticed it's on your website. You on there. How did you find that, Nikos and Stratos?
Nikos?
yes.
You begin.
About relaunching.
Yeah, how did you find that they changed the dynamic to where they brought? Have you know, like they brought Hotshot Hamish in as a different kind of character, and Mighty Mouse as the manager?
This is a great disappointment for me. I just, I bought some of these, and I've spoken to David about his art in one of them that was lovely. He tried and managed to make a new project, classical and the modern style, but the modern style they want is just not a comic, it's just a cartoon. I don't like this type, and I don't like that they changed some basic names. You know, Lofty Pick now is a black player.
Yeah.
Black was Vernon Elliott.
Yeah.
And the other stuff about Hamish spin-off, these are not so good to me.
I think it's just trying to capture like the younger readers again.
That's it.
The young, but I don't know
if Nikos. When it first came out, we were talking about that. He expressed his disappointment, and I tried to explain him that you have to forget that you have to know that they're not trying to sell memories. They're trying to sell completely.
I can understand this.
Yes. It's a completely new brand. It's like brushing off everything. It's another era. It's a completely different age. And talking about children who are very involved with the internet, they're always with tablets or phones in their hands. And the artwork looks like manga. It looks very different to what we already know. So I understand. I bought everything. I enjoyed everything. Really enjoyed everything.
Yeah, me too.
I enjoyed the storylines and the comic books. I think that the stories were better than the comics, because the comics were, as Nico said, more cartoonish than comic-ish.
That's as a standalone. I enjoy the books and I enjoy the stories. It was just trying to. It's hard to get because you've been invested from like the 70s onwards, and you grew up with the names of these characters, and then they come around again. And that's what as a standalone work, I think they're fantastic. But
for me, it's very good.
And like I say,
I was disappointed that it ended so abruptly.
Yeah, I think there's two things there, right? I think you have to kind of understand it's not meant for us, and you have to, although it's Roy of the Rovers, you have to completely treat it as a new story. Because I'm alongside Nikos, but once I got my head around it, I did enjoy them. And like you, Stratos, I'm upset that they've ended. And as I always say, Roy in any form, it's always good to have Roy in my life. So any new publications is good for me. But
that's it. I think we've covered every other question. I'll probably think of several more when we.
Well, I was going to say, Matt, you've got this section which I think is going to be interesting. Go on. I'm going to throw a couple questions at the guys after.
One funny story about the latest edition is that I got one of the books, I don't remember which one, and it had a small note inside. Many greetings from England, and signed by Sunny. Sunny, who's that, and why is he talking to me? So the world is really a small place. I had an Indian student who lived here in Chios, and then moved to England.
Okay.
And started working at Egmont, and he processed my order.
Wow, that's amazing!
Brilliant.
This was mind-blowing.
That is fantastic.
Yeah,
that is just, yeah, brilliant. I love it.
What more can you think about?
Well, it shows you that
him through Facebook after that, and he said, "Is it really you?
Yeah.
Among all the people who could process my order, it was you."
That's amazing. But it shows you that basically you taught him English by just showing him Roy of the Rovers stories.
Yeah,
that was how you taught him English as well. So you carried on the legacy. Yeah.
Matt, I think you might know this, but some English people, as in me, that's how we learnt the language as well.
Yeah, some people are still trying to learn it. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. That's definitely me.
Okay, so what I'm going to do now then, just for listeners, so you're aware, I'm showing some just a few pictures of some stories, Greek-related stories, just to the guys here. There's a main story I want to get to, which is the one when they go on a summer tour of Crete. So, I'll show a few of these. So the first one, and Nikos, you being the historian, I'll be, please pull me up if there's any which I miss out. I'm sure there'll be loads of missed out. The first one that I can kind of find it's actually, I think it's Paul Trevelyan. It's the very first edition he drew actually of Roy of the Rovers, and it's when Rovers. This is 13th of April 1963. They played Domino Spartak.
That's a fantastic drawing. Fantastic. The details.
Paul Trevelyan was
everything done by hand.
It's the detail is just amazing. So they're playing Domino Spartak in a friendly, and then they go on a summer tour to Greece, all paid for by a George Kazanos. I won't go through.
Zarkadi, a name of team. I think this
Zarkadi. Yeah,
Paul Trevelyan's.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. It is.
Paul Trevelyan's.
Yeah, they go over to Greece, and there's a pointing to the map. This George Kazanos take them over there, and there's all sorts of the story goes into as these stories do. There's kidnapping, and they meet a Greek boy called Leo who saves Roy from some falling masonry at one point. And you're right, they end up playing. I mean, I won't go for the whole story, but this is Bob Roberts is a player. He disappears. I think he ends up in jail. And
the first time I see this.
Have you not seen this one? I'll have to send it to you. I'll have to send us the details separately. Yeah. It's quite a long story. That's why I'm not going through every single facet of it, Nikos. But it's a great fun story. I mean, at one point, so this on the screen I'm showing, it's a cover. It's got Tubby Morton there, and at one point they borrow a kit, and the kit doesn't fit them properly. And so much so that Tubby Morton, obviously being Tubby, I guess, by the name, he's wearing a top which is too tight for him, which means he can't move as well as he normally can. And then they let a goal in because he can't. And that's what you can see on the screen.
He can't lift his arms.
He can't lift his arms. You can just see his belly just slightly protruding there. But anyway, the story continues. What it ends up that there's a smuggling racket which they've become involved in, and this young Greek lad Leo, he gets them caught up in it because basically he wants to win enough money to build an irrigation system for his village, and it all ends up that Rovers have to play a final match, and I'm trying to see who they play. I can't remember the team they play. I think they play a Greek team. Roy ends up going in goal at one point, and if they win the match, then this George Kazanos actually will agree to pay for the irrigation system. And so on the screen, on the 3rd of August, I'm showing here that Rovers do win the last match. George Kazanos pays for the irrigation system. Everybody's happy. And then they end up going home on his luxury yacht.
Not bad.
Not bad. So not a bad story. I mean, it went on for, as you can see, it went on for since from April to August, so for 4 months. So you can imagine how the story went over there. But that was the first kind of tour I can kind of see when they actually spent some time in Greece. The next time I find they played in November 1966.
I remember that.
Ah, okay, so you've seen this one. So this is the European Cup Winners' Cup. They're drawn against the Greek Cup winners, Paniakos.
Something between Panathinaikos or Panionios, you know.
It's a bit Olympiakos. Yeah, exactly. A couple of Rovers players. I'm showing a front page on here.
This is Joe Colquhoun out.
It is, absolutely. Yeah. 66 with Joe Colquhoun. Yeah.
Sorry, mate, just interrupt. I love. There's Nikos. Every time the images, you can see Nikos's brain. He's really on the artist. Stratos is like, oh wow, I've not seen these stories. And this is to see your guys' reaction.
I told you, I'm just a collector.
The absorption. He knows I'm loving. I'm just watching your faces and loving every reaction.
So on this, we joined.
Are experts in different things, you know.
Yeah. No, all of us. Yeah.
So we joined the story at half time. So Rovers are playing Paniakos. 2 players have been kidnapped this time, more so than one before. It's 2 now.
As usually.
Thumper Thorpe. Don't know how he's got his name, Thumper. And Brian Holt have been kidnapped. Some of the reserves, so the Rovers reserves, are actually off trying to find the players. And then what happens is they do find them. Now the game's going on, and obviously Roy and Blackie are worried about what's happened to Thumper and Brian. And so Ben Galloway, he sees some kids nearby, and he borrows their kite, and then he draws on the flag on the kite, and it must be the longest kite line ever. I don't know how far away the ground was. But anyway, whilst watching the game, Roy and Blackie can see up in the sky that they're saying both safe, Ben. And so straight away they're thinking, great, okay, so Thumper and Brian are safe, so the game continues. And then what happens is during the game, so the opponents have drawn level, Paniakos have drawn level, and they're thinking, well, okay, it's going to be extra time, but actually this is where Roy had to remind Blackie, I spell it different here, Bulky, about the away goals rule counting double. And so Rovers actually had to score again. Yeah. Roy then hits the post, and then look at this art by Joe Colquhoun.
Okay.
Yeah, lovely.
An image.
That's just superb, isn't it? Really.
Panathinaikos 1, Manchester 2.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah, and that's it. Then they get through to the next round. So so they're through to the next round. Then the next one, the next story I can find, you probably have seen this one is it's a European Cup Winners' Cup.
Nikos has drawn all of that.
He's drawn out all of this.
Yeah, all of that.
Wow. That's amazing to see. You have to send me a link to that, Nikos, because this is a famous story, obviously drawn here by Yvonne Hutton.
Yes.
The story is Rovers are into the European Cup Winners' Cup final, and Roy's just become the player manager, isn't he? This season, he's just become player manager, taken over from Tony Storm, and he thinks they're going to be playing Atletico Tandora, but Nikos beat them, and they get to the final. Narcos, yeah. Now he's done his homework on this Atletico Tandora, but surprisingly, Nikos get through, and so he's stuck, and he doesn't know. He phones around trying to find information about Nikos. He's really worried. Rovers go over to Greece, and what Roy does, he starts asking the Greek fans about Nikos. Why you look pretty confident. What's so special about Nikos? And then they were telling them about his left back and telling them about Populos and these players and stuff like that. So Roy's taking all this information and he's telling the guys. So the game starts. It's nip and tuck. It's 0-0. It's a bit of a stalemate really. And then what then happens is Roy then decides to take off Lofty Peak, which is a bit of a surprise. And they bring on a sub called Shaw. I don't know the name of the first name of because I don't think they mentioned the first name. Shaw. They just say they bring Shaw on.
One of these one match appearances.
Yeah, and then Nikos start pushing forward. So the right back pushes forward, leaving a bit of space. Charlie Carter throws the ball out. Then what happens? Obviously, Shaw, the sub, gets the ball. He shoots. Keeper saves it. Roy follows up. You can see on the screen with his right foot this time. It's there, no mistake. So it's 1-0. Mervyn Wallace adds a second, and that's it. The Rovers win. So just for listeners, I'm showing on the screen here. Rovers winning the Cup Winners' Cup final in 1975 against Nikos.
Brilliant artwork.
It is brilliant. It is brilliant, isn't it, Nikos? I mean, Yvonne was just her style, as you say. It's
so
brilliant.
Unique.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe that Tom Tully had in mind Panathinaikos that reached the final of European champion 4 years later, 1971, against Ajax of Amsterdam in Wembley. Ajax won by the same score, 2-0.
Oh, really?
Concerning the name of the team, it was about to have a name of a town or small village called Niarchos.
Right.
But Stavros Niarchos was a Greek, a very rich man, ship owner, and maybe some of his administrative offices in London. And so the name was familiar to the British.
Yeah.
But here in Greece, Nikos Deligiorgis, the editor of Agori, changed the name to Achilleas from ancient Greek hero of mythology. So the club was Achilleas for the Greek.
The Greek reason. That's really interesting.
I call the club Achilleas of Niarchou.
Brilliant.
Niarchou village.
Yeah.
Just we say Aris Salonika,
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's really interesting, Matt. That's what you are sort of, Neil, you were asking earlier on about these subtle differences. And it's interesting to see that because they're playing a Greek team, but in the Greek edition, as you say, the team name was changed.
They had to make everything more familiar for the fans.
Yes.
Like in Holland with Rob van der Rovers.
It's true. That's true. Yeah, exactly.
And Bob of the Blues was, Johnny the Greek.
Yeah,
Johnny the Greek. That's funny. Yes. Yes. And so, so the main story I wanted to really focus on, I think, was because I think this is a real interest because we were talking earlier about Ian Vosper and David Skew, their great love of Greece and the Greek islands. So this is. I'm showing on the screen now. This is the 10th of May, 1980. So it's coming up to the end of the season. Actually, Rovers end up winning the league. I think they played Port Dean in the last game. I think it is Port Dean now. I don't know. Anyway, Carford are playing Port Dean, aren't they?
Carford. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Sorry.
Anyway,
that's small.
Yeah, it is really small. Sorry. Anyway, what happened? Sam Barlow. This is when Sam Barlow was a nice chairman. Because they win the league, they're going off for a holiday to Crete, and they can't believe it. They're really excited. So they jump on the plane, and there's a big reception of fans when they get over to Crete. But then, just in the last panel, there's a shadowy character who you'll see throughout the rest of the story. Going, your visit to Crete will not be the one. What's that say? Oh, not be one long joyride, my friends. I shall see to that.
I shall see to that.
Yeah. So in the space of 16 frames, you've gone from Rovers winning the league, being excited to go off to Crete, and then you've got some shadowy character. You're thinking, well, some sort of drama is going to ensue here. So they turn up at the Aphrodite Beach Park Hotel.
Yeah.
I don't know if that is an actual hotel in Crete, but
Could be.
and it could be the wives and
sounds normal.
it sounds normal. Yeah, it does Stratos.
Στράτο, είναι το φαράγγι της Σαμαριάς αυτό.
Yeah, that's Samaria Gorge. That's an actual gorge in
Yeah,
Crete.
this is what I found amazing, because I didn't realize this until a few days ago when I was researching this story, that these places that are actually covered in this story are real places in Crete. So that's superb. That's superb, which is unusual for
the cultural elements of the comic. That makes it so interesting.
Yes.
Absolutely, which is unusual as well, because I can't remember them ever often doing that, really. They would have like sometimes make-believe countries, make-believe teams who actually had a real life island, real life tourist spots in the stories. That's superb.
I think the only one in England is Wembley, isn't it? That would be the only realistic ground they probably played at, was Wembley and Hampden. I think.
Yeah, true. So anyway, so they arrive in Crete, and so the wives and girlfriends there, they bump into Oldfield are over. They're playing Oldfield and Stanbridge City in some mini tournament.
The funny thing is the way David pictures the Greek guys, always with a hairy chest and a mustache.
Like mine.
I wish you put a top on, Nikos.
But not like Stratos. It's blonde.
Used to be, now it's white.
Stereotypes, eh? What will we be without them, eh?
Yeah, exactly.
So the tour starts, and it's quite funny actually, because they meet a waiter, a Greek waiter called Nikos. There's another Nikos, Lidakis, and he's very helpful, and he talks about going to the gorge of Samaria, which is a famous gorge there. So they plan to go off there. This is quite funny. They go off in a coach. They're due to go off in a coach, but Jimmy Slade and the three apprentices, you've got Steve Naylor, Alan Lynch, and Mark Price. They don't want to go to the gorges because they see an attractive girl walking past, and they say that
I'm with them.
They're going,
in all fairness, that's probably quite realistic of footballers, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Jimmy is a youngster. He died at 30s.
Yeah, exactly. He had to have his fun. At some point. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you have a good day. We're going to take a look at some of the other sites of Crete, if you know what I mean. And they go, okay, kids, and they go, you behave yourself, Jimmy Slade. So so they go off to the gorge, and they're walking through the gorge, and you can just see again in the last panel, you see another shadowy character going, the Samaria Gorge is not as safe as you think, my friends, as you are about to find out. So then it moves on to next week's installment. And
great.
you have Roy and the team and the girls and the wives walking through the gorge. It's interesting. I think they say it's 11 miles long.
It is very long.
It's very long, which is incredible. But then also they say after half an hour they think it's time for a rest. I'm thinking after half an hour, if you're having a rest after half an hour, when you've got 11 miles. But anyway, they have a rest, and as you say, the genuine gorge is 11 miles long. So at some point, listeners, if you go out to Crete, you need to go to the Samaria Gorge, where Roy and the rest of the team once trod. Anyway, we see a character moving a boulder up on the top of the gorge, and suddenly there's a bit of an avalanche coming down. Jerry Holloway quickly runs away, and he jumps and he smashes, or he puts his foot into a broken bottle and he hurts himself, so he's injured. So Jerry Holloway's injured. They've got a game against Stanbridge City coming up, and Steve Naylor's in the team. So Steve Naylor goes in the team, and they play against Stanbridge City, and Roy gives away a penalty. But I don't cover the whole of the game, because what we do after that game.
Dicteon Andron, Dicteon Cave, Dicteon Andron.
This is it. This is another one. So after the Stanbridge City game, again, you've got the shadowy character, and he goes, if all goes well, this is where I strike next, because obviously clearly he's injured Jerry Holloway. But we've got a big poster on a notice board saying, visit the famous.
Jerry was an archaeologist.
Yeah, he was, wasn't he? He was. Yeah, good.
Yeah.
See, Nikos, you know your stuff.
Those
You are a proper
facts.
historian. He was. He was.
Yes.
He was a
I
very
thought-
learned
Yeah.
player, wasn't he, Jerry Holloway?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, very educated. And yeah, so we've got a poster there saying the Dictaean. How do you pronounce that, guys? Is it Dictaean cave or
Dikteo Andro.
Yeah, in Greek.
Dicteon Andro.
Dictaeon Andro? I won't try and okay.
Which is exactly the same in English, Dictaean cave.
Cave.
Dictaean
right, yeah.
cave.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got a picture there. So clearly, this shadowy character who's trying to get Rovers is planning to do something at these caves. So anyway, the story continues. We see Nikos, the friendly waiter, there. He's actually he's offering to be a tour guide at the Dictaean caves, and they go through Siko. Is it a village called Siko or something like that? Which I think is an actual village in Crete as well. I think they stop off to play. They stop off to play.
Siko is a fruit.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Siko is a fruit.
It's
okay.
big.
Okay. Right. So then they play their game against Oldfield, and which is quite comical because at one stage, I'm just flicking through the pages. At one stage, obviously the heat's getting to them.
Mm.
They actually have a team of Greek waiters come on with ice buckets, and they throw water all over the Rovers players, and it helps them beat Oldfield at the end of the game. So Rovers actually end up winning the trophy. So that's great. And then they have a party later on, and you see Roy up there dancing in his blue Hawaiian shirt. But anyway, they move forward. The story moves forward, and you've got Nikos there, the waiter. Now they go to the caves. Now they get to the caves.
Stalagmites.
Stalagmites. Yeah, you see this, and this is I've seen pictures of this online. This is actually how it looks, isn't it? The caves.
This is how it looks.
Great
Yeah.
image.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Amazing.
So they go to the caves, and Nikos disappears. They can't find Nikos, so they're lost in these caves, and they're getting quite worried, and they're not quite sure what to do. So we go and try and find him, and Roy say, "No, it's stay. I think we'd better just wait, find him." Eventually, they get out. Jeff Giles climbs up, and then he falls and he hurts his knee. Jimmy Slade is there, and he's suffering from heat exhaustion as well. But then they look up, and then suddenly there's something rolling towards them, and they're thinking, I don't believe it. What is it? And then you see next week what it is. It's a ball. A ball is bouncing down from the top of the caves.
Nikos again.
Yeah. Well, wow. Well, actually, no. Kind of.
He's waiting outside.
Well, yeah. It's actually some boys from a local village, and they climb up and they find out there's a local villager, and Nikos is there. Nikos is there in the village. And he said, "Oh yeah, I lost you, and I came back here to get a search party together to try and find you."
Okay.
Anyway, we've got the Rovers players there. You've got Mervyn Wallace there, he's injured. Lots of the players are injured, and Roy's thinking like, "What are we going to do now? We've only got 7 players. They've got the 3 apprentices, but they're going to need another player." At this point, they see a young Greek player playing with some other school kids on a dust pitch. And he's looking brilliant. He's dribbling through. He's lobbying the keeper. He's a really, really good player. And his name is Yorgo Dimou. Yorgo Dimou. I think it's how you pronounce it.
Yorgo.
Yeah.
Dimou.
And he was due to play so they're due to play Zakadi. Zakadi is the made-up name.
The name of an animal.
Okay. So that's the name of the team they're due to play Rovers in the last match, and so they asked this Jorgo to play for them, and he can't believe it. He's like, "Oh, me play for Melchester Rovers?" And Roy goes and meets his family, and the family are very excited because he's going to be playing for the famous Melchester Rovers.
This if I can say something, about the same. When Rovers were in vacation in Spain, and they tried to help a small village club team, then there was a player who wanted to play to Manchester too, a talented young player.
Was that in one of the Animals? I'm sure it was in one of the 1986, 87 Annual. I think that was a similar storyline, if I'm not mistaken.
There's quite common, wasn't it? They'd
Yeah,
go
I think
somewhere,
it's
or
It was
they'd go,
common.
and then there'd be somebody, a talented player who will become part of the team, but then you probably didn't hear about them
Never
afterwards.
heard of him again. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
It was made once
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
Jimmy Slade, and after that, no more.
Yeah, true.
I want to say that he was an amateur, a guy who most of the people knew him as a thief, but Roy insisted and took him to Manchester to replace, as a replacement to Andy Croydon.
Yes.
Who
Yeah.
he is the one who broke his.
He did.
his
Great knowledge.
Tackle.
You're right. Yeah. I mean, Jimmy Slade's an interesting character, isn't he, Nikos? Because he joined, I think, in '75, the story, and then there was quite a lot about him. And then you didn't hear as much about him, but then he came back later, didn't he, Paul? It was about 84, 85.
Yeah. And it always makes me laugh that he's always referred to as young Jimmy Slade.
Yeah, 10 years later. Yeah. And obviously he perished, like we said, in Bazran.
Yeah, Bazran, yeah.
We need to do a special on Jimmy Slade at some point, because he was quite a character, wasn't he?
Yeah.
But yeah, so the story continues. Now, what we're finding here is that actually we come back to the last game. They're going to play Zaccardi. Nikos, the really friendly waiter, is giving them some food the night before the game, and he's giving them some spicy food, as it say, herbs and spices. And you still see a shadowy character saying, "The fools, they're enjoying a meal to remember, but they might not feel so happy. It might be a bit upsetting from tomorrow afternoon." So we're thinking, well, who's this character? What's going on here? The game starts and Roy sets Paco Diaz down the left wing. He's just going through on goal, but then he just collapses with his stomach, and he's like, he's clearly he's got something wrong with him, and he's feeling sick.
I think that this lady, Penny, is just the same face as David's wife. You know,
do you think so?
Really?
Similar to her.
Really? Yeah. Well, that wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, because this is what you're saying earlier about some of this stuff, some of the writing on the boards. Is this some of the stuff is in Greek? I don't know if you can see it. It might be quite small.
It's like
maybe Eleni.
Look at the one with Paco Diaz.
Eleni. There.
There's Yasu, which means bye, hi,
Yasu.
and Opa.
Here is Irini.
Yeah. And at the bottom one,
Irini,
Irini Georgioglu είναι ωραία, which means
yes.
Irini Georgioglu is beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Irini was Ian Vosper's girlfriend. That's the
and
name.
He wrote
of the girl.
And the last name, Georgioglu.
Wow. There you go. That's really cool, isn't it? I love that. That's super.
And Georgioglu was a Greek actor who played a football player in a movie.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
But that was after that. Was after that.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? The connections. It's
like life imitating art.
Yes. Absolutely. So anyway, the game continues now. Actually, it's only Paco Diaz who's actually had food poisoning. So Giorgio is there, and they're calling him now George because they can't cope with Giorgio.
It's too difficult.
It's too difficult for Manchester players. But he's playing brilliant. And some of the football they play is like one-touch football. And then at one point he dribbles through. He's through on goal. He's fouled, but the referee says play on, and Roy, sticks the ball in the back of the net, and it ends up. So Rovers are winning at half time. Now then, Nikos comes in to give them some drinks at half time. But it's at this point where Roy goes, "Don't touch it, Vic," just before Vic Guthrie drinks it, because then that's when they accuse Nikos, the friendly waiter, of being, and it says here, the little rat who's been trying to turn our holiday into a disaster.
Oh.
So so they uncover it's Nikos. Now this is at this point, and Nikos comes clean, and actually what he's saying, he's a massive fan of Zaccardi. He just didn't want to see them lose. So all the way throughout this, he's been like sending boulders down on top of them.
He's nearly killed to half of the
Yeah,
Manchester
yeah.
Rovers squad just so that his home team
He's an avid
can't lose a
fan.
match.
He's an avid fan.
Yeah.
It's
I
passion.
think
That's
that
what passion does.
David had a role in scenario, David, because he's got a lot of Greece things. I know that the scenario was written by Tom Tooley
Yeah.
with the advice of Barry
Tomlinson.
Yeah.
Barry
Tomlinson.
Tomlinson.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Barry Tomlinson with Tom Talley. But all these stories about Greece, I believe that David had a role in this.
I think when you in reality, I think you're right. I think Tom clearly he was the main script writer, but he would have been getting ideas from Barry and Ian Vosper as well as the editor, and then David with his love of Greece as well. You can just imagine maybe the four of them in an afternoon, maybe having a few drinks or something like a lunch, and they concoct all this stuff, don't they? And it's superb. And in the end, what they do is Rovers, they don't report him to the police or anything like that, which you probably might do because he's attempted murder, basically.
Yeah.
But they said they're going to penalise him by making him sit on the bench, and then they beat him by about 5-0 or something like that, and that's it, and then and that's the end of the story. But it's a great story, and like you're saying, Stratos, that these are real places in Crete.
Yes.
That was superb. So. I'm definitely, when I go to Crete, although my wife doesn't know it yet, we're going to be going to Samaria Gorge. And
I can just see the face of your wife as you're standing there going, did you know Rovers actually visited here?
Oh dear, my poor family. And I just whiz through these in the interest of time, but then this is how it came back into the story. Crete came back into the story. So this is February 1980.
This is an essential part of the storyline.
Well, of course,
it is.
If it wasn't for Greece, then we'd have nothing. We'd have nothing in the story. This is when Penny left. So Penny left at one point in February 81 and went to Crete.
Yeah.
So I'm just showing pictures on there, but then she came back, of course. She always comes back, and there's a great cover.
Happy end.
Yeah.
Happy ending.
Just quickly, this story actually made the national press.
Yeah,
It was actually covered by national newspapers in the UK about the marriage breakup, and I can't remember.
And Roy at the royal wedding.
Yes, that's right. Which was in July of this year. Yeah, July of 81. Yeah, exactly. Great knowledge, Stratos. And then in 1983 as well. 1983, we're jumping ahead, and this is obviously when it would have been
a great picture with the kids, Roy with the kids and his wife. Great picture.
Look at the artwork and the coloring.
Yeah.
I mean, the worst thing about the last work of David Hugh with the new Roy of the Rovers brand was the coloring of his artwork. The coloring was awful, really awful, with no character whatsoever, just digital. But look at that coloring. Look at the faces and
the original.
You're 100% right, and that's because he did his own colouring, didn't he, up to a certain point, and then IPC I think started doing it, didn't they? And he was never happy with that, was he?
Yeah.
And you can see why, as you say there, Nikos, as well. That illustration there of Roy with Rocky and Melinda is brilliant, isn't it?
I think this is a sample of his finest artwork.
Yeah. Agreed.
Great.
But yeah, so that's when, and it's just before. Yeah, that was when he was actually. Oh yeah,
the blonde one.
Yeah. Sandy Lewis. Yeah. And you got a picture there of Penny in Crete.
Blonde one with the red.
The red dress.
It happens to the best of us.
That's for another podcast.
So all I'm going to say there for listeners and fans, this was never covered in the actual magazine, the comic, but on the Stalky Night blogspot, you might see that Stalky takes a different view of what might have happened during this period.
Stalky,
yeah. Doing a great job, by the way.
Stalky Night is
made a great job too.
Yeah, hats off to Stalky, definitely. Yeah, I mean, all sorts happened there. I mean, on this and the next page, we've got Penny's mum She was always on the phone straight away to Penny, wasn't she? Always telling her within a second of what Roy was up to, and then photographers catch Roy with Sandy Lewis, and then Penny storms in, and that's it really. That's the end of the story. So I kind of pause it there and stop sharing. But what guys, Stratos, what do you think? Looking back at those stories. Oh, go on, yeah. Show me, yeah.
There was another one in 1987. Bruno Miller was the star of the story. I think they played against a Greek team that wore green like Panathinaikos. I don't remember the name, but I'm almost certain that there was a storyline of a match against a Greek team in 87.
Oh, wow. Okay, brilliant. So many.
I was trying to, I couldn't quite get my comics off the shelf, but I also wondered when Gary Gunn, that summer tournament, was that in Greece
that summer
as well?
Tournament too. Yes, you're right.
It was in Greece. Yeah, that was 1989. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, interesting. Very interesting. Some,
Great collection there. Congratulations.
My God.
Great.
Yeah,
Just like Stratos.
Mine are not so well collected. I have to say they are one after the other, but not so well collected.
Yeah, we'd love to see pictures of the comics. Yeah, the comics, because obviously clearly they're in different comics, weren't they? So the covers and how would be really interesting. And
Nikos has everything.
Yeah,
on the Greek editions.
Thank you. You too. I said that you are an expert in one thing and me in another.
Yes, that's it.
But our connection is the Roy of the Rover trail.
Yeah.
When Nikos first contacted me, I really didn't know there was another guy who remembered Roy of the Rovers after 15 years.
Yeah.
And what about other people, other connections over there in Greece? Are there other people you're regularly in contact with through the site?
Nikos is the glue.
He's the glue.
He connects everyone.
We are about to have the first meeting in Athens. Not all of us, but many that lives in Athens in November 1. The 1st of November, we shall meet.
Oh wow! So next Friday.
Yes.
Wow.
No. On Sunday, the 3rd of November. The 3rd of November. We will meet in Athens in a place called Theseo.
Wow,
the metro station of Theseo in Athens.
And how many of you?
Archaeological sites.
Well, let us know how it goes and take a picture of yourselves and we can put it up on one of our...
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
We'll take and send you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So it's just on 1988, actually, Rovers were it was Spain. And you're right, Bruce Pancho Miller, he'd moved to Carlton Town. And in the quarterfinals of this summer tournament, they took on the Greek side, Stakos.
Yeah.
What?
In the green. Stakos.
They were wearing green, right?
Yeah.
Stakos.
Ah, wow. Yeah. Amazing knowledge.
Stakos is,
Yeah, that's it. Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I remember.
Yeah.
Great.
So that's, so Bruce Pancho
We have
Miller.
a lot of Greek teams all these years against the Rovers. A lot of Greek teams.
Yeah, that's it.
It's Mike White, huh?
Mike White.
Great.
So yeah, Stakos, S-T-A. Oh, actually.
Stakos.
Well, that's actually here. It's got S-T-A. Yeah, that is S-T-A-K-O-S.
It is Astakos. There is a place in Greece.
Oh wow!
Eutolokarnania is Astakos, a small village.
And how did you guys feel when you saw like Greek teams in the stories, or when they had covered Crete? Was that a good feeling, or did you think it was? Oh, I'm not too sure they cover it the right way, or how did you feel?
It was very interesting and very, wow, they came to Greece. Wow. It was like that. It was very interesting. I read the storyline of the Crete tournament, early 80s Crete tournament, when I bought all the past magazines.
Yeah.
Because I think eBay should have a small study of me buying all the previous editions of Roy of the Rovers. In the beginning, it was bulk, but then when you miss a couple of issues, to fill certain voids, it's getting more and more expensive.
You're talking to a few more
And
collectors
that
here.
last issue, that's it. And that last issue didn't cost little.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
I think
It's
it was
amazing.
£40 or something like that.
Yeah, that's not bad.
It's amazing that Paul has found it in some minutes.
Yeah, kind of. So this is 1988.
That's it.
Yeah.
And this is the storyline that Gary Gunn, but just reading it, in Crete for a triangular tournament, Roy was also taking a look at soccer ranch run by Richie Gunn, the Port Dean manager. So again in Crete, and that's when Gary Gunn, who's the son of Richie Gunn, the Port Dean manager, and of course that ends up leading to Gary Gunn signing for Manchester Rovers. But as I say, so that again that summer, that's in Crete.
Wow.
Great.
Superb.
So yeah, features in many. So I love these ones. I love because these are originals. It's my grandparents' address. As the new for us in the UK, the news agents used to write the address for the delivery boy, or
I have so many addresses of people's homes which were delivered to them.
Yeah, that's really quite nice, isn't it? Really. Yeah,
so it has a great value for you. This issue.
Yes.
Well, look, guys. I mean, it's been amazing talking to you today. The time's it's just flown by, really. Thank you so much. I mean, Paul, Neil. I mean, we're not going to do the usual Facebook sites or anything like that because we'll cover that in a normal episode, and we'll just move on to the kind of final thoughts, I guess, really, and then our goodbyes. So, yeah, Neil, shall I come to you first?
Yeah, I mean, Stratos and Nikos, it's been absolutely fantastic talking to you, and I don't think this will be the last time you'll be here. I think we'll speak to you again.
You are very kind, thank you.
No, because it's not just Roy of the Rovers I want to ask you about. It's like other things, like obviously, like are you aware of the champ stories we talk about, the football picture story monthly books we have, and different things like that. So I've got many other questions to ask you, and I love your artwork, Nikos. I'm similar. I used to copy all stories as well. I'm sure Matt and Paul are both aware, and I compiled my own team, but I'd copied Yvonne's artwork, especially because I like Yvonne's and David. So I've got loads in common with yourself as well. So I'm sure we can have a great chat, hopefully in the future, about our different artist styles. But yeah, I've really enjoyed today's. It's not an interview, is it? It's just today's chat.
It's a chat.
It's a chat.
It feels like, as I always do with you guys, I'm going off, buddy. I'm talking a lot again, but it just feels like you're talking with friends. I've never met you. I've just seen you online, and it feels like I'm really talking with two friends. It's been really enjoyable today. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your kind words.
Okay.
It feels the same way for us.
Oh,
Yes.
brilliant.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to, as obviously my nickname is this tangent, so just to quickly back that in summer tournament in '89, it was Manchester Rovers and Port Dean and the Greek champions and Agron Nika. So Agron Agronica.
Yeah. Of course, that's not a real team or a real name.
Agronica. And they play in a kind of a sort of bluey with a white band across the chest there. That's Port Dean in the stripes, but yeah. So again, another, as I say, and that's another Greek team featured as well in the story.
A lot of them.
So that's great. Yeah, exactly. Well, guys, it's been fantastic, and I don't know, I'm kind of just showing as well. Stratos, you mentioned of that. Is that the one?
That's not the one. It's that's the 1986. No, that's the 1984.
No, there's another one. There's another one, wasn't there?
I've got 3 summer specials with Roy and England. This is
that's the one.
Great image.
Signed by
brilliant.
Pat Jennings.
Yeah. Brilliant. So yeah,
Excellent collection.
Yeah.
Excellent.
There you go. There's the sign, please.
Yeah, that's it.
Great.
I think I've read that particular issue more than 150 times,
Wow.
or maybe more.
Well, do you know something? I've kind of moved them, but some of these summer specials, this one, I don't think is my original copy, because my original copy, I've read so much, the cover is off and pages are just so warm that I've actually had to purchase another copy to have one that's intact.
Yes.
No, gents, it's been fantastic to meet you and get to chat to you. As Neil said, really, I don't think we've only scratched the surface. I'm sure, hopefully, we'll have you back in a future date as well. It'd be
Whenever
lovely
you want, we're
to chat
always
to
here.
you again.
Thank you so much for your kind.
Yeah. Well, do you know something? I will just one last thing I'm going to say to you guys. Stratos, you said it was an honor, but actually, it's been an honor for us, for both of you to come on. Thank you so much. It really has been.
Yeah. The honor are mine. It's mine.
So
it's mine.
Thanks, Paul. And yeah, so Stratos, some final words.
Great experience talking with you. Thank you so much.
I've never been on a chat about Roy of the Rovers ever in my life. So this is the first time for me. Apart from one-on-one chat with Nikos or other guys. And I mean, Roy of the Rovers is a legacy, has a legacy.
Yeah.
He has taught us so many things, apart from, being football fans and learning how to kick a ball, trying to kick with that rocket, and of course being thrown down on the ground and never doing that. But it has taught us about sportsmanship, about hooligans, about the ideals that football has to offer to the fans.
So many things and topics.
So many things, yes. Yeah, the legacy is there. And I wish they realized how important it still is, especially in these days, when everything is commercialized and everything is, everything can be bought and sold very, very fast.
Yeah. Great.
They started very well with the
reboot, as they call it.
It was a really good idea. It was alienating for us with the names and the new universe, but they had to continue it.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know.
It mustn't be stopped.
I don't know about the reception. I don't know how it sold. I don't know about that, but the legacy is there and has to keep going.
Yeah. And we're keeping it going, aren't we? We're keeping it going. That's what we're doing. Nikos, some final words for you.
Yes, I want to thank you guys for this experience. For me, it was a very a moment of my life that I couldn't dream of it. To speak with some friends of football, friends of comics, and to be a guest in your marvelous this Chamber United team you have, and I wish you do it for many years. You've done a great work.
Yes.
For the football, for the people, for the comics. Go on with the good work. Thank you so much.
Wow.
And Stratos.
Yeah. Well, guys, I mean, it's been such an enjoyable time talking to you both. Your knowledge is incredible, both of you, and your passion shines through. And
thank you.
As we're saying, the global reach of Roy of the Rovers is amazing. But as I said, the legacy, it does continue. We're talking about it now. We'll definitely continue the podcast talking about Roy of the Rovers and other football comics like Champ and We Are United. But I think as long as people like us are here talking about it, the legacy will continue. So, listeners, I hope you enjoyed that episode. It's been a fantastic episode. We'll see you all in episode 92. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
been great.
Stay united. Goodbye.
Up the Rovers.
Yeah.